Welcome back, everybody, to TTBurger's Burger Wing Spook Fest. Still here for the month of November until we wrap things up, whatever things will be. And welcome to more game reviews here. We continue with my Legacy of Kain series review. Oh, Legacy of Kain! Episode 298, part 4 of 5 parts. Inching closer to that 300th episode. Something big is planned for that. Be on the lookout for that, ladies and gentlemen, because it's going to be big. It's going to be special. But now, let's continue here. Last time, I took a look at Soul Reaver 2 for the PlayStation 2 and gave it a 9 out of 10. It was just as fun as the first Soul Reaver. Had some problems, old and new, but it was still worth it in the end for sure. But now we're going to take a look at a game that has the Blood Omen name in it. That's right, Blood Omen! With our friend Kain, the main protagonist and antagonist of the franchise in some of the games here. As we got the game right here, Blood Omen 2, released in 2002, a year after Soul Reaver. So let's see what we got planned here for this. Is it better? Is it worse? Is it just as good? Let's find out in a roar! So let's get started, ladies and gentlemen. So far for the Legacy of Kain series, all the games have been successful in their own ways. Blood Omen Legacy of Kain was successful among fans of action-adventure and Zelda-like games. Then Soul Reaver and Soul Reaver 2 were successful among gamers who like killing enemies and solving puzzles. Now we enter Blood Omen 2, the true sequel to the original Blood Omen Legacy of Kain. This time they go for a linear-style action game where you are Kain, you go around killing enemies, drinking their blood, solving small puzzles, opening doors, finding weapons, and more to get to the end. Now you're all probably wondering, how does this game compare to Blood Omen Legacy of Kain? While I do like this game, I will admit that the original Blood Omen Legacy of Kain was a little better. Blood Omen 2 comes off as a mediocre average game at best, and that's being very generous there. It's not a bad game, but it's not the best game, and more could have been done with it. In Blood Omen 2, the story takes place 400 years after the first game. This is after Kain refused to sacrifice himself to restore the Pillars of Nosgoth, thus caused the Pillars of Nosgoth and Nosgoth itself to be in ruin for eternity of decay. Afterwards, Kain built an army of vampires with the help of Vorador, who was the first human-turned vampire. They attempted to conquer the world. Now we enter the story for Blood Omen 2. 400 years after the events of Blood Omen, Kain wakes up in the capital city of Nosgoth known as Meridian. Kain remembers very little of the events that happened in the first game and his powers are lacking. He is then greeted by a female vampire called Uma, who informs Kain that he has been asleep for 200 years. 200 years before Kain's conquest had been opposed by the Seraphim Order, who were an army of vampires who destroyed Kain's army and defeated Kain under the command of the Seraphim Lord. After the Seraphim Order also claimed the Soul Reaver and imposed martial law on Nosgoth's human population and started a revolution by employing glyph magic. The glyph magic is deadly to vampires and many vampires were extinct because of this. The remaining vampires agreed to serve the Seraphim out of survival so they would not die. The female vampire Uma, who is a member of the Cabal, this is a resistance move formed by surviving vampires that hopes Kain will destroy the Seraphim Lord and vampires who are in cahoots with them, while also reclaiming the Soul Reaver. The story is good, I like it. The original Blood Omen story was a little bit better, mainly because of the mystery found out that Kain was the Ninth Guardian of Nosgoth and went crazy. Here he's just out for revenge, and that's it. Uma the vampire, the female vampire, literally has no personality to her whatsoever. She just talks and guides Kain and that's it. Kain is probably the most developed character of the bunch, but at times he comes off as a gruff, angry asshole. I understand he wants revenge and gets Soul Reaver back, but the way he comes off here is just unlikable. Blood Omen 2's presentation is good, but Soul Reaver was a little bit better in the aspect. The game does not look bad. It's almost on par with Soul Reaver 2, but Blood Omen 2 has some slowdown issues. When moving around like normal, the frame rate is fine, but when you encounter enemies, when you attack them, the frame rate slows down and freezes because of this for a few seconds. It is annoying because even in an area with not a lot of enemies going on, it still can hitch up. Aside from the frame rate issues, though, the character models look good, especially Kain and Uma. Enemy models are just the same few enemies aside from the bosses. The blood is probably the best part of the graphics, and we know Kain drinks blood since he's a vampire, he'll be doing it here a lot. The environments look quite good and lifelike. There are people who walk around in environments like they are scared of Kain, and the guards of the other coins will try to kill Kain. It's very lifelike, and the reactions are really funny. I think it's one of the best parts of the presentation. The cutscenes look nice, on par with Soul Reaver 2, both in-game and CGI. But like last time, you cannot skip the in-game cutscenes, it just pauses the game. I have to ask here, why is it so taboo when it comes to a simple option to skip the cutscenes? If you die, you do not get to a checkpoint, you have to watch the scenes over again. I mean, dear lord, I tell you, isn't that ridiculous, people? I think it's ridiculous, that's for sure. Blood Omen 2 shines in the sound department here and is probably the best part of the game. The voice acting is fantastic and they do all their best here. Simon Templeton is back as Kain, he's the best part of the voice acting. It is great that Kain has the same actor for 4 games now. Usually by this, in many franchises, the main character will be voiced by somebody else. Earl Bowen voices the Seraphim Lord and he fits perfectly. Elizabeth Ward-Land voices Uma, who also voices the character Seer, who is a boss character. Paul Lucinda voices Vorador, he is a perfect fit for him. The other actors sound equally great. The only problem we have here is that some of the actors voice multiple characters, and when this happens, you can hear the same type of delivery with the lines. This is similar to what happened in Fahrenheit, aka Indigo Prophecy by Quantic Dream, where the same few actors voiced all the characters and it showed here and it shows there. The music, well, there is no music for the most part. I think that is okay. I mean, last few times the music was not the best, so have no music. Just brace yourself in the outdoors. Blood Omen 2's gameplay is very different from the original game. Instead of a top-down Zelda-like view and gameplay, this time we have a 3D linear action game with some platform elements and other mundane tasks. This is all fine and well, but the problem is for the most part, all you do is just slash the enemies away getting from point A to point B. It makes the game way too easy at times. I mean, the feel of Blood Omen is here with the setting of Kain being the protagonist, sucking the blood of the enemies and more. Just the first Blood Omen was a little bit better in terms of gameplay. Most of the time in Blood Omen 2, you're killing enemies and looking for treasure chests to upgrade your health and upgrade your weapons. From what I can tell, so far, there are only a few different types of weapons: the sword, the knife, and the mace. I have not found any other weapons, but for the most part, they all do similar damage, so pick whatever weapon you want, and there you go. Kain has some cool moves he uses, but most of the time, you're just attacking the enemies. The controls are fine, but it's weird to have to hold down R1 to attack with the square button for some reason. And you know, like, sometimes you'll have to block, like, get your special move power up, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, and that can be enough to just sit there and just block the whole time. The camera is not the best, it's still a little wonky, and when you turn, it turns the camera itself. It takes time to get used to. Like I mentioned, you have special moves here, such as turning invisible to get past the guard, and Fury, which is more powerful attack to wipe the enemies out. All fine and dandy here, but you know, in order to fill your meter up, you have to block an enemy's attack. So when you have other enemies attacking you and you have to block, you either gotta kill all the enemies except for one, or just take it and just die. I mean, I like using them, don't get me wrong, I like using them, but it's kind of ridiculous. There are some other tasks you'll be doing, such as pulling levers to open doors. You'll be figuring out puzzles that involve the evil glyph magic. There are many green glyph magic like doors here in each chapter that you'll need to pull levers to open. To open these doors, you need to pull the lever and follow a circuit of green that flows to the next lever. They are probably my favorite part of the game. It requires you to use your head and figure out where to go next. There are only 7 chapters in Blood Omen 2, and while they are long chapters, there are only 7 of them total, and the game is still a little on the short end. You can get powers for your health and items you're done by fighting the treasure chest to give them a level up. Enemy AI does not really put up much of a fight, except like the bosses and stuff. They do a 180 on you after that with the bosses. You know, the boss fights are tough. Why can't the rest of the game be challenging? There's not really much else to say here. I mean, Blood Omen 2 was an average game at best. It just could have done so much more for a sequel. Sadly though, I may not have been a big fan of the gameplay play style in Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, but that was at least more challenging and set up better than Blood Omen 2. And that's what I gotta say about it. And before we even give this game a score here, let's go to our TTBurger pros and cons. For the TTBurger pros, Kain is back as a playable character for the next installment. Kain can once again drink the blood of the bad guys to gain health. Decent but good story. Levels are linear but semi-open world at the same time. Game takes place in Meridian, the capital city of Nazgul. Uma the female vampire makes her debut appearance here. You have good graphics, excellent voice acting, and solving the glyph magic puzzles is enjoyable. For the TTBurger cons, Blood Omen 2 feels like a step backwards in quality. Only 7 chapters total throughout the game. No music may be a turn off to certain people, but I was okay with it. Some characters have the same voice actor. Kain can come off somewhat unlikable at times. Uma, the female vampire, has no personality to her whatsoever. Enemy AI does not put up much of a fight. Only a few different types of enemy models. You cannot skip in-game cutscenes once again. Only a few different types of weapons located throughout the game. The frame rate can hitch up more than it needs to. The camera's still a little wonky. And Blood Omen Legacy of Kain was the better game of the bunch. So what do we give Blood Omen 2 for the PlayStation 2, Nintendo GameCube, Xbox, and PC? Well,
I haven't played the other versions, but I gotta say, I had to go with the PS2 version because of the control style and everything, but that'll be up to you to decide what version you like the best. So what do we give Blood Omen 2?
Because of the complaints I have here with this game, Blood Omen 2 is going to get a slightly lower score than Blood Omen Legacy of Kain. But not that slightly lower. Roar! I'm kidding. It's getting a 6 out of 10 because of some of the problems here, but it's still it's still an average game. I still recommend it. Just could have been better. And that's it for this episode. Well, the part of the episode, part 4 of episode 298, part 4, 5 parts. Roar! Stay tuned for the follow. Take a look at Legacy of Kain Defiance, a brand new game here. How does this turn out? Find out in the next part, ladies and gentlemen. So like I say, this is Tony. Peace and out. Have a good day, and we'll be back in Legacy of Kain Defiance.